Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están? Mi nombre es Alba Mar, me pueden decir Alba. El canal se llama Serial y estamos aquí para hablar de libros, algunos de ellos en español desde Puerto Rico. Hi, my name is Alba Mar, you may call me Alba. The channel name is Serial and we're here to talk about books and some of them in Spanish from Puerto Rico. Last day of 2019 and all I want to do is to keep on reading. But I want to let you know what I've done in December. And it's been an awesome reading month. First of all, I want to thank Katie at Books and Things because the refrigerator trackers, thank you, they've kept me on track. And according to them, I've read 9 books in December. 9 books. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books in December. And I've come to accept what Steve Donahue always says, that it's true, since I've been on vacation and I don't have to do anything but read. I can get it done. I am retired after all. So I already spoke in my last video about Just Mercy, the Communist Manifesto, and Cousin Pons. And I'll leave the link to that previous video down below. I finally finished my nonfiction selection for Voice in Nonfiction November, and that is Stranger at the Gate by Mel White, a gay Christian pastor who for 25 years battled with what he at long last accepted as his God-given sexual orientation. But before he came to that acceptance, as the blurb here in the back says, he was counseled, exorcised, electric shocked, prayed for, and nearly driven to suicide. Yeah. And we accompany him on all of that. At the same time, while this is happening, he was a much sought after ghostwriter for some of the top leaders in the religious right, and which was how he earned his living for his family, his wife and 2 children. Something that I'll always remember about this book is how, as a teenager, first becoming aware of his sexual orientation and already born into a very conservative Christian family, of course he went to his Bible. And here on page 37, of course, he went to the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And he surrounded himself with every Bible translation, Bible dictionary, Bible atlas, and Bible commentary that I could find. He locked himself up in a room and did his own self-imposed research on that passage in Genesis chapter 19 in the Bible. And he, despite the fact that he came to understand that that particular passage did not address homosexuality at all, he continued, tragically, to live in paralyzing fear in the closet, getting married, having children, compulsively filling his days and nights with endless church activities. I know what that's like, including ex-gay therapy. Mel White leaves nothing out, and that can be uncomfortable at times. I know that I've been so enriched by reading this book without a doubt, and I am very glad that Mel White had the courage to write the book, come out of the closet, share his experiences, and even more, become an advocate for the LGBTQ community and become a voice against homophobia. Yeah, that was my nonfiction for voice. Finally got that read. Then I finished Umberto Eco's The Name of the Rose. The Name of the Rose, which had been on my TBR for the longest time. What an adventure this was. I read this ugly mass market copy of The Name of the Rose, which I found for free. Can't beat that. Free at the used book fair a while back. And I read it with an audiobook that I found on Scribd, narrated by Sean Barrett. It was like having a reading buddy. And I was fascinated by the atmosphere, the setting of the monastery, the library and its labyrinth. And I was so filled with anxiety as people kept getting murdered. And I was fascinated by the political intrigues surrounding the Pope, the monastic orders, the monastery, the Inquisition, and all that medieval history. Yeah, I loved it. Sometimes the philosophical discussions went over my head, right? The signs, the labyrinths, the symbols. But that plot kept me going. And I found it very, very reminiscent of the little bit of Sherlock Holmes that I have read. So I think I might be ready for Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum read along with Jason at Byways and Bookland in January. I really had fun reading this. And then on Christmas Day, I finally dug out my copy of The Christmas Carol and Other Stories by Charles Dickens from a box. And I read it again with a wonderful audiobook this time that I got on YouTube. And it was done in a day. And I'm not gonna lie, it did bring a little tear to my eye at one point. This might get me to read some other Dickens, maybe someday. I didn't get to any of the film adaptations because I was still reading. And then I had my buddy read with Nina at Corners of a Bookshelf, which is the novel La Guaracha del Macho Camacho by Puerto Rican author Luis Rafael Sanchez, which, by the way, is my daughter Jamil's favorite Puerto Rican novel. And it was daunting, but I loved it. Now, a guaracha is a very rhythmic dance, and in this book, there is a #1 hit song called La Guaracha del Macho Camacho that's on every radio station, on every TV station, all over, all the time, in all the cars, and in all the bars, everywhere. Think Despacito. Okay? Yeah, something like that. Now, Macho Camacho was a real character, a real professional boxer who began winning his titles professionally after this novel was published in 1976. But apparently his amateur boxing was so great and prominent that he had already become a celebrity by the time this book came out, allowing him, according to the author, the wherewithal to compose a song. Not really. This is just in the novel. But his celebrity allowed him to compose a song, and hence this title, La Guaracha del Macho Camacho. The language the author uses is very rhythmic and very repetitive. It's like a salsa. It's like reading a salsa song. And it can be very, very entertaining and very funny. But the themes reflect very important aspects of Puerto Rican culture. The characters range from the poorest to the most powerful, and there aren't that many characters in this book. There are no heroes and there are no heroines. Some parts could be very painful to read, and other parts to me were very infuriating. That's just how truthful this book is. I found out doing my research that there's an English translation that I might try to get to someday, and it's called Macho Camacho's Beat. I want to thank Nina at, I think it's Corners of a Bookshelf. I'll leave the link down below, for sharing this read with me. I appreciated her input so very, very much, and it made it a lot more fun. Mwah. And then I noticed that next to the sofa by where I sit to read, the good earth was on that table. And I figured, why not? I want to roll. So I found another great audiobook, this time on YouTube, to bolster my commitment. And was like another buddy read. And in 11 hours, voila, I finished it. Now, I had read The Good Earth way back when I was a teenager. And I had also seen the reruns on TV lots of times. And for some reason, in my memory, I thought the main character was Olan, the wife of the story. But no, come to realize now that I read it this time, that the main character is Wang Lung, the male protagonist. This is a story of his life as first a poor farmer, then a refugee, forced by the famine to flee with his family to a city in the south of China. But his love of the land, his ever-present love of the land, brings him back, and eventually he works and prospers and becomes head of a great family. I love this story, as I love most books about China. But I'm still surprised that Pearl S. Buck wrote it centering on Wang Lung and not on Olan. So I guess I was mistaken. Oh well, now I have to finish Wild Swans. Now I'm actively in the middle of a Puerto Rican novel as an English novel, a brief 50-page novel, written in epistolary form, Seba, by Puerto Rican author Luis Lopez Nieves. I finished the 50-page novela, but I want to read the commentary about it, because it generated a lot of buzz when it first came out, this book. The main character is a historian who claims to have discovered primary sources that prove that General Nelson Miles and his Marines invaded Puerto Rico not through Guanica at first, to the south, on the 25th of July in 1898. No. According to the historian, he found primary sources that revealed that the first attempt to invade Puerto Rico was at an earlier date in May of the same year on the east coast of Puerto Rico, and it was unsuccessful because of the resistance of the inhabitants of the little town called Ceiba. The novela chronicles the historian's quest to read General Nelson Miles' diaries about that first invasion, and then continues with his trip to Spain to search for a map that would show that such a town as Ceiba really existed. It's a fascinating what-if story, but apparently when it was first published in 1984, this book is from 1984, some people took it seriously. And then they were disappointed when they realized that it is only fiction. Drama ensued, as often happens in Puerto Rico. Anything can cause drama. And that's what I'm going to get into now. The drama. I can't wait to find out what happened. And then I'm also reading The Best of Eddie Lopez by journalist and humorist Eddie Lopez. I've read half of the columns, the funniest one being Poetic License, in which he gets flack, more drama, from a reader for rhyming a limerick incorrectly. So he decides to get himself a poetic license. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah. After all, if a licensed poet like Edward Fitzgerald managed to get away with "Up from the earth's center through the seventh gate I rose, and on the throne of Saturn sate," then by George I should be able to sneak in "was" for was without being denounced as a phonetic anarchist. That's Eddie Lopez. Oh. And so for the chunker, which I have been reading a little every day, chipping away at it every day. I hope there's no glare. Okay, I'm reading Thomas Cromwell's A Revolutionary Life by Dear Mick McCullough. This has not been easy. Not been easy. I told Shay, who's also reading it, that it took me a while to adjust to McCullough's style. I feel like a temp. I feel like an office temp on my first day at an archaeological office, trying to piece together what the heck happened with all these bits of paper lying around. McCullough makes the reader very aware from the very first that he bases everything on primary sources and documentation, some of which is missing. And he is very honest about letting the reader know when something is speculation, rumor, unsubstantiated from sources other than Cromwell, etc., etc. So it's been hard. It's hard. Because from the very beginning, McCullough lets us know that much of Cromwell's documents were destroyed by King Henry. So there's that. But what I find fascinating especially is what McCullough labels Cromwell's ambiguity. Like, for example, when Cromwell worked for his master, Cardinal Wolsey, while at the same time working for Wolsey's nemesis, King Henry. And there are very many other examples of that ambiguity. Or was it just that he was a lawyer, being a lawyer? I don't know. I reached the part where Cromwell is almost at the height of his power, 1536, about halfway through the book. So, okay. So, I'll leave it at that because I have to pack. So I'll be escaping the heavy-duty fireworks next door in the plaza. I can watch less deafening fireworks from the windows in my daughter's house. And then I can keep on reading. I want to welcome all the new subscribers and wish all of you, the new and my regular visitors, a very, very happy new year. I appreciate your time. So take care, keep on reading. Cuídense mucho, mi gente. Disfruten este nuevo año venidero. Que sea de mucha bendición. Sigan leyendo. Adiós.